rahmatullah. My name is Rabiu from Department of Business Administration. I'm here to take you on Model 2, Course 1, Nigerian Entrepreneurial Environment. This model is a very important model because it's a model that educates students on how to analyze their business environment. Business environment, and knowledge of business environment is very important because that can help one to make an informed decision regarding business start-off, business growth, or maybe investment in other business opportunities. So it is very important because your failure to understand your business environment may result in a wrong decision. So you are welcome. So the objectives of this module are: number 1, to discuss the Nigerian business environment, to appraise the cultural issues at work in the entrepreneurial process, to master how to monitor and identify opportunities, threats, and how to deal with such opportunities or threats in the environment. And lastly, to discuss barriers to entrepreneurship. So, generally business does not operate in isolation. Business relates with so many other stakeholders like the owners, the customers, the competitors, that is people in similar kind of business. They are also major stakeholders in business operating environment, and so many others. So business operate with this kind of stakeholders in order to be able to survive. Normally a business operates in a multidimensional environment dealing with many stakeholders. So the environment too is subject to large degree of change. The business environment is always changing because of the change in technology, change in government policies, change in consumer taste and passion, and so many other factors that bring about change to business environment. So a business needs to always adapt, to change and go in line with the changes in its business operating environment. Otherwise, it may be rendered, irrelevant in the marketplace, because technology is changing rapidly and government policy are evolving to make things easier for people. So a business failure to adapt to the new change may result in a failure. You understand? So an entrepreneur or potential entrepreneur should always be mindful of the changes in his business environment so as to develop an appropriate strategy that will help the business survive. So the affiliation between business and its environment is one of maturity. That is, the environment is trying to influence business, and the business in return is trying to influence some aspect of its environment to be able to survive and continue surviving. So the environment is that hurdle on the business, while the business in turn influences some aspect of its environment. Though some aspects of the business environment are uncontrollable, but still a business can develop a strategy to go along with its changes. Like for example, a government policy. A government policy is something that a business cannot control. Like for example, before the farm center fund seller settlement, they were at the post office site selling phone and phone accessories, but suddenly government said they should move away from there to farm center, and all those business people had no option but to move to that new location. That is how government policy affects business operation. Sometimes you may be operating in a particular location, government may ask you to relocate to another location, which it feels better for your business operation. And so many other policies. Like for example, now we are having COVID-19 pandemic all over the world, which is forcing business to change, to adopt what they call new normal, like working from home and so many other things. So the conditions or factors within the business represent its internal environment. That is, all the factors within the business premises, within the business, are called internal factors and are also known as controllable factors, because a business or entrepreneur can control them. Like for example, the number of people you can employ, the unit of good or service you can produce, are all controllable by you. You can decide on them. So contrasting the element of external environment which are uncontrollable, these conditions or factors are generally viewed as controllable by the business. Examples are the quality of interpersonal and intergroup relationships, the nature of the production and distribution facilities, financial and human resources, etc. All these are subject to the business control. Business can decide on this without any problem. But where the problem is the external environment. The external environment is generally viewed as uncontrollable. Why? Because the business cannot control them, but develop what they call strategy to go along with the changes in its external environment. Like for example, a change in technology. If you can observe our business environment or the changes, major trend in Nigeria, you will see that technology is tempering the traditional distribution system. Almost all businesses are trying to go online. So in the near future, you hardly see the kind of physical shops we are having right now. They are all going to move online. Why? Because technology is evolving. It's making things easier for business people to go online, to reach out to the markets, beyond where they are physically located. So external environment is the surrounding in which all firms in the industry operate. Not only the environment, but the stakeholders within the environment, like the government, the competitors, the owners, the creditors. All these are actors within the business external environment. So Nigerian entrepreneurial environment. The capacity of people to create new ventures or remodel the existing enterprise can be enhanced or discouraged by the state of the business environment. The business environment in Nigeria was very harsh. Thank God to some government policies now, things are getting better. So gradually we are hoping things will get better. Entrepreneurs can find it very easy to start and grow their own businesses. So the nature of the environment can encourage or discourage the business start-off, depending on whether the policies there are favorable or not. Like for example, a lot of potential entrepreneurs or new business startups are complaining of our failure and so many maybe difficulty in accessing funding and stuff like that. If government can provide all this within the potential entrepreneurs reach, things will get easier, and a lot of startups will be sprouting every day on a daily basis. So business environment can discourage or encourage a business startup depending whether it is favorable or not. So in general, business environment refers to influences and pressure exerted by external factors on the business. The success of every undertaking business depends on adapting to the changing environment within which it functions. So the survival, possibility of a new business or a business depends on its ability to adapt to the changing environment, the business environment. If it adapt well by developing strategy and other policy that will help it survive, it can move on. But if failure to adapt to the new changes may result in it being overtaken by events. You understand? So in view of that, there is a need to assess the environment and then design a strategy that allows entrepreneur to thrive successfully. So as an entrepreneur, you need to analyze your environment, discover areas that you can come in, maybe use strategy, or maybe use whatever resources you may have at your disposal to take advantage of. So broadly speaking, the environmental factors are political, economic, social, technology, ecology, and legal factors, otherwise known as FESTEL. So this FESTEL is an acronym, standing for the factors we are going to study our business environment under. These factors are political climate, economical condition, socio-political factors, technological factors, environmental or ecological factors, and then legal system. So this FESTEL analysis is to consider the starting point of doing business. That is, an entrepreneur needs to analyze these factors to be able to understand his environment very well, to make a very good start of attempt. So entrepreneurs are expected to consider the effect of these factors in the choice of enterprise and its location in order to enable them determine the viability of the business and plan adequately for its success. So we are going to see these factors one after the other and see how we can analyze them and understand some factors that are under each one of them, so that we can be able to develop strategy out of the factors we are going to understand. So the first one is political factor. Political factor has to do with the way government and government policies are guiding business operation in a particular environment. It's mostly they are mostly policies from the government. Now our factors under this we're going to study. Number one is taxation policy. Tax is a compulsory payment made by individual of a particular community, nation, or a country to the government for the services the government renders to them. It's a compulsory payment. So as a business or a potential entrepreneur, you take this at the back of your mind that there is a tax which you need to be paying to government. So this tax could be moderate, high, or low, depending on the environment you find yourself or you are targeting with your product or service. The rate of the tax rates in that environment may encourage you or discourage you to start your own business. If the tax rate is very high, it means maybe leaving you with a little profit at the end of the day, because you are going to pay higher amount of money as a tax. When the tax is very low, that is when it is very encouraging to start off your own business. So it all depends on what you are going into and the kind of money that opportunity is going to be giving you. For example, recently government increased the value added tax by 50%, from 5 to 7.5%, which causes a lot of inflation, which render people purchasing power going down and down, you understand, which made them unable to buy as much as they need goods and services, and that is causing a lot of challenge to businesses, because business make money when it makes sales, and if it cannot make sales, it means it cannot make money. If it cannot make money, it cannot be able to pay salaries and wages, pay taxes to government, buy raw materials, and continue to survive. And that is why we are having unemployment issues all over around. So the next one is trade regulation. Trade regulations are government policies that are guiding business operation regarding competition, ethical code of doing business, and so many other things. Because of these trade regulations, a lot of businesses are being, a lot of consumers are being protected by the government from being deceitfully being exploited by this kind of businesses. And then we have political stability. Political stability is a factor that indicates whether the government is doing the right thing or not in a particular community or not. You measure this political stability by the rate of violence and instability in a particular location. Like for example, Nigeria is having issues with regards to Boko Haram, kidnapping, and all this kind of a thing on daily basis. And because of this, investors are not willing to come to Nigeria. Recently we heard of Twitter establishing their office in Ghana, and a lot of these companies are going to Ghana and all these countries, not Nigeria. Why? Because our political instability is not stable. You understand? We are having issue here. So unless these issues are eradicated, then businesses are not find it very challenging to start off and even grow. So this is another factor a potential entrepreneur should look into when deciding on a particular location or product or service to go into, or maybe the time of start off. And security of life and property, almost the same with political instability. Security of life and property is a very important factor, because place where there is insecurity, you are bound to lose everything. So A very good entrepreneur, wise entrepreneur, may not want a situation where he will end up losing everything. So that's why businesses, especially foreign direct investment, prefer to go to some other neighboring countries than coming to Nigeria. Then corruption index is another factor. Corruption index is a factor that causes cost of doing business to be very high in Nigeria. Why? Because all the necessary amenities, infrastructures that need to be in place for entrepreneurs to find it easy to operate are not available, like the power, electricity, the good road networks, and all these kind of things. Because of these, businesses are finding it very challenging to operate, because it's adding up to their cost of production, which make them make very little or no profit most of the time. So it's a factor a potential entrepreneur should look into before deciding on. So the next one is economical factor. This factor is going to indicate the degree to which a country or a nation or a community is doing well economically. So there are a lot of factors under this economical factor that we are going to study. Number one is inflation rate. Inflation is a continuous rise in the prices of goods and services over a given period of time. Nigeria is experiencing inflation, general inflation, all over. You understand? And because of this, the purchasing power of Nigerians are going down and down over the days. And because of this, people cannot be able to buy, whatever it is they want, especially luxury. People are more focusing their energy on buying necessity, because that is what is compulsory for them to survive. So unless if somebody is going into necessity product or service, you cannot be able to make a lot of sales, because people have little income in their pockets hand. You understand? So inflation is a factor you should consider before going into the kind of business you may have in mind. It affects also the raw materials. The raw materials are very expensive. The likely finished product prices are too going to be expensive. So it's going to affect your marketing of your product and what have you. So you need to study this factor very well before you make your startup decision. Gross and spending power. Gross and spending power is the increase in the ability of people to buy as many things as they want. By having, when you have too much money in your hand, you can be able to buy a lot of things. And when more income, comes, that's when your spending power increases. You understand? So, for example, if there is likelihood of maybe growth and spending power, that would be a very good time for entrepreneurs to come into play, because that is when they are going to make a lot of money. Because people have money in their hands, they can be able to buy whatever it is you offer to them in the marketplace, whether it is luxury or necessity. So rate of people in pensionable age determines the availability of labor force for your business. So when the majority of people are at this pensionable age, you hardly find the requisite number of people that can work for you. So you need to study this factor before you decide on locating your business in a particular state or location. The recession or boom. Recession is a kind of a situation or period where a country faces a kind of a general decline in economic activities. Recession happened in Nigeria as a result of our over depending on oil, because Nigeria depends entirely on oil. So when the price of oil goes down, the country goes into trouble, goes into recession, and that's when people find it difficult to survive. But when there is a boom, especially in Nigeria, that's when prices of oil are going off. That's when the country experiences boom. You understand? So this recession or boom is another factor you should consider as a potential entrepreneur before you decide what kind of business you are going into, where you should go, and what have you. Then access to finance and cost of finance. Access to finance is the ease by which you can be able to obtain the needed funding for your business startup or growth or investment. We have this challenge in this country. Accessing funding is very difficult, even though government now is trying very hard with a lot of policies and interventions, aiming at easing people ability to access funding. So we hope if government will sustain the tempo and more, things are going to get better in the future. So entrepreneurs can be able to borrow money at a reasonable cost. The cost of finance is another factor, because when the cost of finance is higher, you may end up paying or servicing the money you borrow with the profit you may likely earn. Cost of finance are issues like interest rate you'll be paying, handling charges and what have you. There are a lot of hidden charges by banks when they lend you money. So all those attributes to what we call cost of financing. So entrepreneurs should consider this factor when considering sources of funding. Are you to go for a commercial loan? Should you go to maybe personal, maybe from your friends or family to borrow, because it is very cheap and easy to get. It depends on the kind of the financial condition of the country you find yourself. And then we have production factor costs. Production factor costs are cost of production, regarding cost of labor, the cost of capital, financing, the money you'll be paying as interest rate or royalty to people you are using their resources. You understand? So the higher the cost, the more unfavorable for entrepreneur to go into a particular kind of business. And then we have per capita income. Per capita income is the income per head. That is, when you divide the national income by the total population, you arrive at the per capita income. This per capita income is a very good indicator, telling you whether people are capable enough to buy whatever it is you may be offering to the market. Because when people have money, that's when they buy things, whether it is luxury or necessity. But when the per capita income is very low, it means people have very low income at their disposal, which may not be favorable to businesses at that very moment. So per capita income is another factor you should consider. And then we have monetary or fiscal policy. Monetary policy are policies from Central Bank of Nigeria by the government through commercial banks in the form of maybe interest rate, open market operation, and all this kind of thing. Government uses this policy to control money circulation, to make some economic policies in the country. These monetary policies at times do help start up potential entrepreneurs. You understand? Because when the interest rate is very low, people can be able to borrow money and invest or start up their businesses. Likewise, fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is another government policy through the Ministry of Finance, in the form of government expenditure, revenue generation, taxation, and stuff like that. It's another avenue where government roll out policies to be in a country. You understand? So they are very important factor you should consider as a potential entrepreneur. So the next factor is sociocultural factor. This factor is a factor that strictly cause someone to strictly adhere to some cultural norms in a society or community he finds himself or he is targeting as a potential business person. There are a lot of factors under this one. We have age distribution. Age distribution is a factor that tells the the majority or minority of either children, young people, or in a particular community or society. That would indicate to the potential entrepreneur or entrepreneur that these are the majority, depending on what is obtainable in the community. If based on your analysis you discover that the majority of the inhabitants of that community are children, you know what this means? It means products and services for children, because they are the majority. So if you go into all people, product or services, you may not make a lot of sales because they are minority in the community. So it all depends on your analysis and what is obtainable in the community. That will indicate the kind of product or service you should go into. And then education level. Education level is another factor. Education changes people's rationality, confidence, and what have you. The kind of product or service you offer to educated people cannot be the same kind of product or service you offer to illiterate people. So you have to know the education level of people you are targeting with your product or service. And you, the entrepreneur, education gives you, confidence. It educates you on, necessary, the basic on how to go about. Like for example, this EEP we are having is preparing people to go into entrepreneurship, to go into business in the future. Then income level is another factor. Income level, tells an entrepreneur the category of income level in a particular environment. This factor should be considered when deciding on the kind of product or service you roll out. Like for example, if you find out that the market you are targeting, composed mainly of higher income earners, what does this mean? It means providing luxury products and what have you, because these people have money, they can buy it. So it all depends on your analysis and what is there in that environment. If the income level is mainly low income earners, then you go into necessity and some other lower price goods or services, goods and services that can be afforded by this kind of people. If you target a market with the wrong product or service, you are eventually going to make no sales, and that is going to seriously affect your start off. So you need to make your homework very well. You need to study the income level very well before you target the market with your product or service. Diet and nutrition increases somebody's well-being, health status and what have you. And then local custom. Local custom is very important, because if you are targeting a particular market, you need to study their custom, their norms, their cultural way of doing things, their way of life and what have you, so that you don't target them with the wrong product or service. Like for example, you can approach a predominantly Muslim community with a product like alcohol, liquor, stuff and what have you. You understand? So it all depends on the custom of the people. Like for example, also people are adopting culture from other civilization, from other people within and outside the country, and because of that it means house people can also patronize a lot of product or service used by other people. So it all depends on your analysis. If you discover that the people are moving toward a particular custom, are using particular product or service used by other people, then you can be able to go into that kind of product or service, because that is where the attention is going. You understand? And then we have religion. Religion is very sensitive. Religion is very important factor to analyze as a potential entrepreneur, because your failure to do this may result in targeting a market with the wrong product or service. So you need to study people's religion before you roll out a product or service to them. This is the kind of mismatch people normally experience whenever they embark on business start off. So all these factors are very important. When you do your homework very well, you can be able to land a very good start off and achieve a greater success in the marketplace. Technological factor. I think based on my perception, this is the most important factor of all. Why? Because technology is rapidly changing on a daily basis. So as an entrepreneur or potential entrepreneur, you should always be mindful of the technological changes in your environment. Why? Because technology is tempering virtually almost everything. The payment system, the distribution channels, the marketing system, and what have you. Everything is being tempered by technology. So to survive in this kind of environment, experiencing rapidly technological changes, you need to always open up to technological changes. You need to be very observant. So factors under this one, technological changes, changes in technology, you should always be monitoring and observing changes in technology so that you go along with the changes. You capitalize on the changes to be able to market your product and sell beyond where you are residing. Like for example, somebody who is going online can be able to reach out to market beyond where he is physically residing. That is one good thing about going online. And not going online doesn't necessarily mean having the website and what have you. You can start from small, and then gradually over time you can have your own website. You can start with your WhatsApp status, your WhatsApp contact and what have you, your Facebook, your Twitter and all this, Telegram, you understand, your Instagram are all important, everywhere you can be able to electronically market your products. So these are the starting point. The social media is helping business people in a variety of ways. So all you have to do is discover how you can use them to market your products. Then you go improve distribution channels, the online shops and what have you, the online payment, I can't remember the last time I go to bank. The only time I go to bank is when my card expires. Why? Because the technology provides an easier way to make payment and receive payment. So as a business person, you exploit all these new changes brought about by technology, and then improve communication and infrastructure. Right now Nigeria is about to introduce 5G technology, very high-speed internet service. So a lot of opportunities are going to open up when the 5G lands in Nigeria. So all these are indicating improvement in communication infrastructure, and you understand, and the cost of data is going down and down. So it will reach a point when the data cost is not going to be an issue of concern to entrepreneurs. Knowledge transfer, from research centers, research institutes, universities, colleges and what have you. That's how knowledge is being transferred. All discoveries and what have you, happen within the universities, within the research centers, and then commercialized by the activities of entrepreneurs, and bringing all this into market for people to use. And technology adoption, you should always be trying to adopt new technology as they come, because no technology is having serious disadvantage business wise. A lot of them are helping business to progress. So technology is a very important factor you should always be mindful of. So the last, second to the last, is environmental or ecological factor. This one has to do with the way you produce your product or service, the kind of pollution and what have you met to the environment. So there are a lot of factors that you should consider under this one. So we have waste disposal. There are a lot of laws and regulations in place that guide business operation regarding their waste disposal. If you go around to most of our industrial areas, you find out that they have a dedicated place for their waste disposal. You understand? So as an entrepreneur, you should always be mindful of your environment. You should try as much as you can to conserve the natural state of your environment, to make sure you do not pollute it in such a way that you make it uninhabitant for people. And then energy consumption. Energy consumption is having greater effect on our world. is virtually changing the natural state of our world. So because of this, a lot of issues are happening, global warming, and all this. So Nigeria is signatory to all these treaties all over, trying to minimize energy consumption, trying to use alternative sources of power and what have you. And that's why we're having a lot of alternatives like the power, the solar power system, and all this. So as an entrepreneur, you should always be looking at the possibility of using alternative sources of power. That can help you to not even depend on the kind of electricity we are having in this country. It's not constant. And then pollution monitoring, you should always monitor the way you dispose your whatever, so that you will not be polluting the environment with your gases and what have you. So legal factor, legal factor is another important factor, because adhering strictly to the legal dictate of your environment, state or country, will ensure that you legally operate and organized by government. So you should try as much as you can to study the legal system of the state or country you are operating in, so that you can be able to know who is responsible to what, where can you go in case an issue arises or whatever. And then registration of business on business premises. Registration of business is very important, because it is when you register that government knows about your existence. And when it comes to subsidy payment and what have you, assistance, like for example during COVID-19, lockdown, business reached out to a lot of businesses with a lot of loans and assistance. The government paid salary to some businesses, you understand, and only those that registered benefited from all those interventions. So registration of business is very important. It is when you register, the government knows about you and they can target you to pay your taxes and what have you. The licensing and permit. Licensing is very important, especially if you are going into manufacturing, kind of business, because by manufacturing you may be producing what people consume or use. So it's better you license with the appropriate agency to be able to operate as a legal entity, like the NAFTA, the Standard Organization of Nigeria, the taxes office and what have you, to obtain all the necessary permit and licenses. And then product safety standard, you should always try to strictly adhere to Standard Organization of Nigeria standard, so that you don't exploit your consumers with substandard products. And then advertising regulation. That regulation is very important. You cannot just often advertise anyhow. You have to abide by the rules and regulations governing the code of conduct of advertising in a particular state or country. Like for example, the kind of billboard you can see anywhere in most of those states, you can't see them in Kano State. Why? Because Kano State is a Sharia compliant state. So you can't just roll out any advertising campaign or whatever, ad or whatever, you understand. Anyhow, it has to be guided by the law of the land, you understand. So it's very important. So far we have seen environmental factors which an entrepreneur should give a considerable attention to when it comes to business start-off, business growth and what have you. So now we are going to see how culture affect business operation or entrepreneurial process. So culture refers to the enduring set of values and expected behavior of a nation, region or an organization. So by culture we mean a total way of life of people of a particular nation, region or an organization. Not only human beings, organizations do have their own culture. For example, the kind of dresses, the kind of slogan, the kind of the mode of operation you see in Zenith Bank are quite different from the way things are in Access Bank. You understand? Why? Because they have different organizational culture. So culture, determines or dictates how you behave in a particular environment or organization. So cultural value indicate the degree to which a society consider entrepreneurial behavior. So at times, because culture, control virtually every aspect of our life, it also, influence our behavior of considering entrepreneurship as desirable career path. Some people are naturally entrepreneurs while others are not. You have to tell them that they can do this and that before they can be able to take necessary action to become entrepreneurs and make things happen in their lives. You understand? So culture control everything. So the simple entrepreneurial process depends on different cultural issues and factors which will be outlined as follows. So culture in one way or the other affects our entrepreneurial endeavor, our ability to create new venture, our ability to take calculated risks, ability to do all this kind of a thing are controlled by the kind of culture we come from. So we are going to see factors that has to do with culture that influence our entrepreneurial inclination. So the first one is personality. So individuals have high inclination to create venture and succeed than others. Yes, it's true, even in Nigeria. Like for example, Igbo people are more entrepreneurial than typical Hausa people. Yes. Why? Because of their cultural value. They value being on your own. So everyone is making an effort to be on his own. And trying to be on your own may result in embracing entrepreneurship, to start your own venture, to invest money and do a lot of things that will make you be on your own. So because of their personality, they have high tendency to be able to take and manage risks. So these are factors that indicate a kind of being built factors that predispose you to go into entrepreneurship. So personal values, goals also play a major role in determining the level of interest of an individual in becoming self-employed and venturing. Personal values, you understand? So the next one is family background. People who are from business advantage family, find it very easy to go into business entrepreneurship than people from business disadvantaged family. But this does not mean you cannot go into entrepreneurship or you cannot be able to go into entrepreneurship because you are from business disadvantaged family. No, an entrepreneur can be born or made. You can be born from a very business advantage family where everybody is in business. You understand? If that is the case, fine. You too can go into business. But if it is not, you can be made an entrepreneur. You can go and learn. And thank God now we are having all these kind of courses in our university. Outside university you have to pay for these kind of courses. So now, these courses and similar efforts, are preparing you to be an entrepreneur in your future. So even though some of us are not from business advantage family, but we are now learning entrepreneurship. So gradually, we are going to learn every aspect of business creation, business growth, startup and what have you. And that will help us to easily start up our own business as we graduate. Not only as we graduate, right from this moment you can start thinking about it. You understand? You are going to NYSC after your graduation, so you try as much as you can to save a lot of money, so that by the time you finish you already have your capital. You start very small with personal discipline. Gradually you can grow your business into something unimaginable, and that is how businesses are growing. There are all these major players in IT world, like the Google, the Apple, all of them started from the garage. Motor garage, you understand, very small place. So that's how you start as an entrepreneur. So gender, this has to do with attitudes and perception of people on the fact of being male or female in the society and how this influences their social interaction. Some Nigerian community are still conservative when it comes to female. They look at them as belonging to the kitchen. They don't give them a kind of active role in businesses. So as such, they relegate them to house chores. You understand? Not knowing that both genders are capable enough when it comes to business startup and management. So in entrepreneurship there is no differences, you understand. But because of our culture, some of our culture regard women with less capability, so they relegated them. They don't give them an active role in business and what have you. And because of that, there are a lot of businesses that you hardly see women partaking in. Like in Kano State, you hardly see women riding Saw. Have you ever seen a woman riding Saw or taxi or something like that? Because of our culture. The moment you see a woman, they will start laughing at her. You understand? Because of our culture. While in other society, that is normal. What man can do, woman can do better. So it's all about culture. It's all about culture, nothing else. Traditional beliefs is another factor. Cultural issues. This is a kind of enduring something in us. Because of our strong belief in some of this, we hardly progress. Yes, there is this guy in my area that normally goes out at 10, 9 or thereabout, for work. So one day I approached the guy and tried to advise him. They say, well, why don't you go out early in the morning and get a lot of passengers in the morning, because that is when people are going to work, school and all these places, and you are here laying down sleeping. He just look at me and laugh and say, guy, in Hausa that sa'atahu samako. You see, that the luck is better than effort. That's what he told me, and he told me that because he strongly believes in that, and that is what is guiding him not to go out early in the morning to look for passengers. So because of this kind of belief, people hardly make it in life. So you have to be realistic. You understand? In most situations, God opens door for people, or people fail to go through the doors, and that's why they remain poor throughout their lives. So you have to discard all these traditional beliefs that are not realistic. So area where tradition prohibits people from using, consuming or marketing a particular product or service may not appreciate its value outside its community. Yes, it's true. If you are from a community where a particular product or service is prohibited, you cannot appreciate its value even if you go outside. Even there is an opportunity for you to make a lot of money out of it. So the next one is religious or ethnic sentiment. Religion is very sensitive, so you have to be very careful about it when it comes to business. You understand? There are places in Nigeria where you may not consider operating some certain kind of businesses. It is equally mission impossible to operate a beer liquor business in Sahara compliant state in Nigeria, like Kano State, Zamfara, all these kind of places. Even though if you can operate such kind of businesses, you can be able to make a lot of money, but the law of the land says no, so you can't do them. So you have to be mindful of all this. And then education is very important factor. Why? Because education increases your self-confidence, increases your ability, cognitive skill and what have you. So level of literacy is still high in Nigeria, and lack of education is a barrier for successful entrepreneurial activities, as education enhances self-esteem, confidence, and gives an individual a clear edge in a very competitive situation. So education is very important, because without education you cannot be able to know the basic of business, and especially in these years of technological development, a lot of things are coming in, and illiterate people are finding it very difficult to adopt this kind of new ways of doing businesses. Entrepreneurship education put a trainee mate in an advantage, especially where the individual has no natural inclination for business or is not from a family of business people. Earlier when I talk about background, people who have business advantage family, they easily go into business or entrepreneurship. But this doesn't mean you cannot go into entrepreneurship if you are not from business advantage family. You can be made You can learn through education, through vocational skill, through apprenticeship, and all this kind of a thing. You can make yourself an entrepreneur, and you can do extremely better than people who are born naturally from entrepreneurial family. Although there are few exceptions, e.g. Cosmos Maduka of Koscheris group, with no formal education, he was able to make it to the top of his business industry. You understand? Born entrepreneurs. Some are naturally entrepreneurs, while others are born. So it all depends. So if you are not the one born with entrepreneurial skill, you can make yourself an entrepreneur. You can start from humble beginning and become, unimaginable. Language. Language is very important, because when you can be able to speak people's language, you can be able to win their confidence. You can be able to gain their trust and what have you. So it's very important, if you are targeting a particular market, to be able to learn their language, so that you can be able to transact business with utmost ease with them. So language is very important. That is why people coming to Kano State, they try as much as they can to learn Hausa, so that they can be able to do business with Hausa people. So it's the same thing with a person from Kano, looking at opportunity in maybe other part of Nigeria, where that opportunity might be in a very remote village, where you cannot even find somebody who speaks English. So you have to make an effort to learn their language, so that you can be able to capitalize on that opportunity. So language is another important factor you should consider. And then uncertainty avoidance, that is your ability to take risks, calculated risks, not just risks, but risks based on your analysis. If based on your analysis you find out that an opportunity is a promising one, you can be able to make a lot of profit or money out of it, you can be able to make a fortune out of a particular opportunity, you can just go ahead and take the risks. So risk is another factor. Some society or culture encourage risk taking, while other cultures don't. So it all depends on where one comes from. So it doesn't matter wherever you are, you just have to know that a risk is part and parcel of entrepreneurship. The higher the risk, the higher the return. So you have to be willing to take a risk before you can be able to enjoy entrepreneurship. So these are the cultural factors that you need to study as an entrepreneur, and try to see how you can provide for them, how you can minimize their issues. So here we are trying to see how we can monitor and identify opportunities for trade, and how to deal with such opportunities for trade in our environment. So everyone has a good business idea from time to time, but it takes the spirit of an entrepreneur to turn those innovative business ideas into real business, sustainable businesses. So the following list of business ideas should help to get your creative juices flowing. So for those of us that are thinking of a business opportunity, especially in this kind of environment, we have some business tips that will help you to even start right from this moment while studying. Like for example, digital and traditional photography services, which you can start with little income. All you have to do is maybe get a small shop, get your digital camera, and all the stock, and then you are in business. Event planning, very easy to do. House and carpet cleaning services, hotels, boarding houses, camps, and other lodging places, especially if you have a vacant house where you can use it for this kind of business. Educational services, there are a lot of students taking their WAEC, NECO, JAM, and what have you. You can provide services to them to guide them on how to go about it, because you have already passed through it, you have all the experience, and you are now a university student, so you have all what it takes to go into this kind of services. Cosmetics or beauty care services, computer or office services, very important, and security services, especially at this moment that we need security because of insecurity issues all over the place. Amusement and recreational services. So all these are very good business ideas that you can start at right from this moment while studying. Then SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is analysis you do to determine your strengths, your weakness, opportunities in your environment, and also threats in the environment. This enables the business to fully exploit and take full advantage of its internal strengths and the perceived opportunities in its environment. Similarly, the weaknesses that may exist in the organization and threats that may come up are identified with a view to taking appropriate measures to overcome them well in advance. So this analysis is very helpful in the sense that you can be able to discover areas you have strength, areas you have weakness which you need to improve, and then the opportunity that is open in your environment, like good government policies, like weak competitor, and all this kind of opportunity. And then threats, maybe strong competitor, bad government policies, difficult access to funding, and all this kind of a thing are threat to your business. You understand? So SWOT analysis is a method of identifying your strengths, example technical skills, financial ability, and what have you. And then weaknesses, lack of marketing skills, introvertness, and what have you. They are all weakness. Opportunities are outside you. The first two strengths and weakness are within you. You, the entrepreneur, you assess your strengths, you assess your weakness, and then the last two, opportunities and threats, are outside you in your environment. What are the opportunities open in your environment? What are the threats in the environment that may likely stunt your effort to start up your business or grow your business? Opportunities, example, product demand, high demand in the market, scarcity in the market, market gap, all these are opportunities. Availability of equipment and raw materials are all opportunities. Threats, e.g. competitors, fire, drought, and what have you, they are all threats. Bad government policy, you understand, they are all threats. So it all depends on your ability to be able to identify all these factors well ahead of time, so that you can develop appropriate measure or strategy to provide for them. If you have weakness, you can make an effort to learn. Like for example, if you are very shy or introvert, you can be able to master public speaking, so that you can be able to prospect the potential customers with utmost ease. You understand? Opportunities in you try as much as you can to capitalize on them, to go after them. Threats, you try to minimize them by developing strategy like insurance and what have you. So who should carry out SWOT analysis? The analysis can be done by appointing a friend, consultant, associate to assist in recognizing one weakness and threat which would otherwise go unnoticed. Compare the strengths and opportunities against the weakness and threats and see if the positives outweigh the negatives. This forces one to think positively about business and other important issues. So it all depends on your analysis. If the result indicates that the positive side outweigh the negative side, it means you have all what it takes to go into entrepreneurship. If the negative outweigh the positive, it means you need to make an effort to improve so that you can try to be an entrepreneur. So environmental barriers to entrepreneurship. These barriers are not here to discourage or demoralize us, but are here to educate us on these barriers, so that we will know how to provide for them, how to develop strategy, how to minimize them. Number one, fear of failure, because of our interpretation of failure. Failure in most situations is not something you should run away from. In fact, something you should be seeking. Why? Because it teaches you that something is wrong somewhere, which if you can go back and correct, you can achieve desired result in the next trial. So failure is not something you should always run away from. It's something you should try to learn from, so that you can be able to perfect your way to make a better entrepreneurial endeavor in the marketplace. Then fear of looking stupid, since the desired action run counter to general accepted norms. Sometimes we do come out with crazy business ideas, an idea that if we tell others, they end up laughing at us. Because it is beyond their comprehension. You know, in most situations, people laugh at things when it is beyond their perception, imagination. You understand? Sometimes you may have an idea that is so good that ordinary person cannot even understand it. So sometimes you don't have to look down on yourself. You have to go extra mile to fight for your idea and make sure you bring it to fruition. And then fear of disappointing themselves and the people they love because of the expectation of these people. You know, sometimes you fear of maybe your parent, the people in your close relationship. You know, you may not try to go into business or start up a business because of the fear of failure and stuff like that. Because you don't want to disappoint people in your close relationship. You understand? That is not a problem. You know, all you have to do is try and try. Because at the end of the day, you will be on your own. So you just have to try as much as you can to help yourself. By doing what you feel, it is the right thing for you to do. You understand? Fear of not having the skill and talent to carry out their ideas, because some important naysayers have put such thought in their mind. Sometimes because of the way people, you know, rate you, you may not be able to do whatever it is you can do to be in entrepreneurship. Like, you know, since from childhood, you know, since when you were a very kid, you know, your people have already, you know, put this at the back of your mind that you cannot do it, you cannot do it. You know, that is why if you have a very small kid in the house, you know, don't discourage him from doing or trying a lot of, you know, crazy things in the house. So all you have to do is try to take away all the things that may likely cause injury to the boy. You understand? And allow him to explore, because that will, you know, tell him that he can do this and that. If he grows up with this mindset, then the world is the limit for that kind of people. But because these kind of people have put this negative, you know, thought in our mind, we keep on, you know, believing we cannot make it, we cannot do it, while in fact we have what it takes to do all this kind of a thing. So all you have to do is just try. So lastly, you know, I have this for you, you know, put for thoughts. 99% of the failure comes from people who have the habit of making excuses, you know, by George Washington. You know, this is true. You know, most of people that always complain, make excuses, you know, they eventually fail. So always take an action. Don't always complain. Take an action. You understand? Don't complain that the environment is not favorable for you to go into business. The government is not helping matters. If you are going to wait for government to help you before you go into business or something, you may wait forever. Yeah. So you just have to take an action. You just have to fight for your idea. You just have to fight for yourself. You just have to go into entrepreneurship. So thank you for listening. And if you do have a question or anything, you can put it at the discussion forum. Thank you very much.